The Doctor Who Alhambra podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Remember podcast, episode whatever it is. I am your host, Brett, and in this episode, myself and Liam will be discussing things from 2015. Yes, this is an AI-enhanced version of episode 20 from our second ever year, kind of an anniversary type of a situation, from the 15th of May, 2015. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, because I will tell you, the podcast sounds different. And you will notice that Liam's sound goes in and out differently because of him using either the blue snowball or his just speakers from his computer. But this is an updated version of that. I've cut out the news. I've cut out some of the early talk banter. If you'd like to, you can find the original sounding of this one way back in episode 20 of the Dr. Lumber podcast. But as this is 2025, 10 years have gone by, the improvements of sound editing, at least for my experience, has increased, as well as our podcast. But as I am every so often going to be looking for a reason to shout out the old time show and encourage you to go back, listen. Again, I will tell you, I have been wrong many occasions. I'm perfectly fine being wrong. But you know what? The podcast talks about Doctor Who, the passion that we both have relating to Doctor Who, and I think that that is never a bad thing. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and let's go back to May 27th, 2015. And what was it? I've been slowly purchasing the novel, the Virgin novel books of the New Adventures of Doctor Who, and one of the biggest complaints I've seen from people who have read these is they feel as though all of the writers are essentially whoring Ace out. Essentially, she sleeps with this person, she sleeps with this person, she has sex with an ice warrior, and they're just like, this would never happen on TV. However, when we get to Big Finish type stuff, none of this is ever discussed whatsoever. She's never been pimped out to an ice warrior before. She's very wholesome. She might be a little bratty in Love and War, but she's never really done any of this before. And I feel as though that's kind of where you're at with Star Wars. You like all of these things, but yet now that it has come back, you want all of that to be added to the whole thing.
No. What I don't like is that they're basically going, well, so 20 years of worth of novels, you know what? It's going to be an alternative timeline, and that's that, but with no explanation. If they gave an in-universe reason, I wouldn't mind, but they're not. They're just going, nah. Screw it.
Well, you could say that also. Again, this is when we get to the novelization of Doctor Who.
The difference is they're at least doing them on audio. All right, they may be different slightly and slightly adapted from the original source material for various reasons, but at least they're still being done. Therefore, they're still canon.
But are they? Because they had to. If you listen to the special features to, what was it? I can't believe I forgot what it was. Let's see, my show notes. Damaged goods. They had to really clean that up because some of the stuff that Russell T Davies did, he did because he never thought he'd ever get a chance to do anything ever again. So he just threw the whole kitchen sink in there. And when they adapted it for audio, they had to take a lot of what he had written out.
True.
So there's no difference. There's no difference.
There is though, but no, there is, because because the difference is RTD said, yeah, fine, go ahead, adapt it. You've got my blessing to do it, go for it. You do good work. And yeah, sure, there can be some adaptions. But with Disney, they're just like, Nah, we're not interested.
Well, what's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference between these virgin novelizations who went out on a ledge, and then suddenly BBC bought the rights back, and then when BBC bought the rights back, essentially they like covered up every single thing that had happened in all these virgin novelization books.
Not really, dude, because they've said that it is an alternative timeline, and because with Doctor Who,
But you're fine with alternative timelines there, but why aren't you fine with alternative timelines there?
because they've not even given the in-universe reason for why it happens. And if you listen to Doctor Who, and if you listen to especially the end towards what was the last Ace Hept one, Signs and Wonders, they do mention the novelizations. They do mention the new adventures. They reference them at the end. The whole speech she's giving about different things that happened and whatever and blah blah blah. She mentions it. She mentions various things that happen in the novelizations.
Doctor, there's something I've been wondering. Do you know when I die? How I die?
Ace, you have a universe of possibilities still ahead of you. Several universes. Did you see anything in your future flashes?
Lots of stuff. Me in a big collar and a cloak. Me on a moped, riding through what looked like 19th century Paris. That can't be right. Then me somewhere else, surrounded by giant fleas.
Like I said, several universes.
How about you?
I heard Puccini, Madame Butterfly.
That's your big future revelation? You go to the opera?
I'm not sure. Certainly a theatre of some kind.
Sex with an Ice Warrior. When I hear that one, I will I'll agree with you. But until then, I feel as though there's two different timelines, and it's okay to have two different timelines as long as you enjoyed them. That's what they're there for. Therefore,
Yeah, but what I mean is with Star Wars, then Disney are not giving they're not even giving any homage to the books at all. They're just totally ignoring them and just going, well, yeah, this is this is a different timeline because we want to do what we want to do.
well, the new series of Doctor Who did the same thing with the Virgin books. It took until the Night of the Doctor for at least some of Big Finish stuff to be added to the canon. The only people that had Big Finish stuff added to the canon were Doctor Who fans.
Yeah, but therefore, because of that one good thing from Moffat, that means the entirety of Big Finish is canon.
So why won't you watch the movie and allow something to pop up like that in Star Wars? Why are you saying it's already rubbish because it's not canon, even though this movie has not been come out yet?
Because I just don't like what they're doing with the other series as well that they're building up to again, like with Rebels and things, and they're just going over old ground. And the fact is that, for example, apparently Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to be killed off in the last movie, Return of the Jedi, and there's a rumor that I think he's going to be killed off in this movie because that's what he wants. So all the events after Episode 6 in the novels, which go 20, 30 years on, where they have, Han and Leia have kids, Luke and and another character have kids. All that is no longer not going to happen.
How do you know? Because in the trailer for Star Wars, you see there's I
know this for a fact because
you see Harrison Ford as an old man.
Yeah.
How could he be an old man if he got killed off?
No, he's going to be killed off in the movie.
But who cares? That the last movie came out in 83 or 84. It's been 30 years later.
No, but what my point is, in the trailer, they've said the premise of Episode 7 is that basically the Rebels and the Empire never stopped fighting. It's still going on. So, whereas in the novels, that was stopped and other stuff went on. So that's no longer not canon. So it's not considered. it isn't going to happen. I don't know. I just grew up with novels. And
I think you should give the movie the benefit of the doubt until it comes out and says it, because there might be something that's said that actually reveals something. We don't know everything. There's nerds everywhere, but just because there's nerds everywhere spying on everything and spoiling everything on Twitter doesn't mean that we know everything.
I doubt it.
Oh, well. Anyway, moving on. The BBC has confirmed that Gemma Redgraves will reprise her role as Kate Lethbridge Stewart, and Osgood's coming back too.
That was a spoiler, isn't it?
Well,
Oh,
they've done
on Twitter.
what?
On Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, they
Well, then, pot kettle black.
what was that?
And I said, well, pot kettle black. That's all I'm saying.
That was it's not a spoiler. BBC put it out there. It's on their BBC website thingamabob.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. They even have a picture of Ingrid Oliver, who plays Osgood, sitting in the powder room getting makeup put on.
Fair enough.
And according to DoctorWhoNews.net, and if you click on the link, BBC has confirmed these things. And the interesting thing is Osgood is coming back, they tease, in her human form and her Zygon form.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want Clara to go. Sorry.
I'm fine with Clara as long as she's stop moping around about Danny. If the instant Danny comes up, I will scream, just like I will scream when somebody said 10-10 to me the other day.
Of course he's going to come up because he's so-called bloody, what was it, nephew or
Yeah, his grandnephew or
grandchild or whatever. So he's going to come up somewhere.
well, so far BBC has not confirmed that he's coming back. So
Yeah, he's going to. I mean, and the thing that annoys me is that I just want someone who is normal.
mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Moffat, right? And look at all of his characters. Amy was apparently special.
See, no,
and Clara is apparently special.
No, I totally agree with you.
And, she had a predestined, destiny, and it's, and the fact that, she is basically, I guess, made out to be the most important companion of the Doctor's ever.
No, I totally agree with you because I feel as though, what was it? Rose just was a companion because she happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Martha, wrong place, wrong time. Happened to be in the hospital where the Judoon grabbed it and took it to the moon. What's her face?
Donna.
Donna got picked up by the tires because she had all those particles in it, and then she was researching something that the 10th Doctor was just coincidental bumps into, where it's not planned out. Whereas we have Amy, who is like this predestined companion, and then we have
and psycho, just saying,
and then we have what's her face, Clara, who is the best companion, who has saved the Doctor from not existing.
But then as a bitch when he changes.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Moffat's companions are absolutely the worst companions, which I'm really hoping, because I was listening to Toby Hadoke's Coos Round, and I'm really hoping that
I've just thought, actually, that podcast that he did with Moffat, it was really, 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 really bad, like bad quality. You could hardly hear it.
yes.
I reckon that was just karma. I really do.
But I'm hoping, listening to the interview that he did with Mark Gatiss, that Mark Gatiss would become the showrunner, because I feel as though he has a better, like, I don't know. I feel as though he has a better understanding because he makes mention of, well, I'd like to do this for the classic fans, but I want to do this for, I'd prefer to do this for the new fans. He realizes you can't please both of them. But I feel as though Moffat just, sits at his computer, just thinking he's God, just like inventing new forms of creating disappointment, much like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg did with the last Indiana Jones movie. They just created a movie that would just piss off everybody and just leave everybody disappointed.
I've not watched any of them. I could never get into them. I never liked them. So
The first one's good. The Raiders of the Lost Ark is great. Temple of Doom's crappy. Let's see, and then what was that?
Last Crusaders.
Last Crusade's amazing. I love it. Best one out of the four.
You're Sean Connery or what? Or?
Yes, because Sean Connery. Moving on to Big Finish news. BBC Worldwide has extended the Doctor Who license to Big Finish until March 2020, so that's good. Also, the Eighth Doctor range, the Doom Coalition, the first box set will be released in November of 2015. Also good as well. We're seeing Series 5 of Iris Wildtime coming back to us in August 2015. No Panda.
And apparently, I don't know whether she was joking, but apparently the reason he's not returning is because he's on tour doing cabaret.
Interesting.
Whether she was joking, I don't know.
Let's see. We also have Graceless Series 4 returning in 2016, as well as another box set of Sherlock Holmes, which I really am impressed with. Sherlock Holmes, I was okay with like season 2. It was okay, but when they did the box set, I don't know, maybe it's because much similar to what they did with Dorian Gray, when they put Dorian Gray in that box set where there was like this whole story arc. Both the third and fourth season of Sherlock Holmes has just been amazing.
Where does Sherlock Holmes take place? The third box set. Where does that take place in Sherlock Holmes timeline?
Let's see. Where does it take place? I know they made mention of it, and I can't think of it. The fourth one takes place. This is the neat thing. The fourth one takes place after Reichenbach falls.
Yeah, it takes place in the final problem after that and before the empty house.
Yes, and I love it because there's two stories going on. There's what's going on, what's happening in Sherlock's life, and then there's what's happening in Watson's life. And Sherlock knows what's kind of what's happening in Watson, but as far as Watson knows, he's still dead.
Yep.
So I really like that. It was a great listen. We also have Torchwood coming out in the month of September, and then after there'll be a couple months layoff, and then the next couple episodes will be released in January 2016.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, so the first one will come out 2015, or September 2015, and then there will be this huge gap, and then I think it's a monthly release for the next like 4 months, starting in January 2016.
But no, it's cool that they said that they're gonna expand, and go from there onto more stuff. So we've got more stuff coming, which is good.
And then one last thing I'd like to talk to you about. Just recently, about 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week and a half ago, Big Finish released Worlds of Big Finish, which takes Sherlock Holmes, Graceless, Bernice Summerfield, Iris Wildtime, Dorian Gray, and Vienna, Salvador, and puts them into a gigantic crossover story. I have not listened to this because I feel as though it kind of like, what was it? Last year when the Worlds of Doctor Who came out, one of the things on the Facebook discussion, Facebook Big Finish fan page, brought up that it's essentially the Worlds of Doctor Who was just a marketing scheme for people to start buying the crossover episodes of like Countermeasures and some of the other things. And I totally just took that as, people just, we all have our own opinions. But as I was looking at this, and then during the week leading up to the release of this, we were having every other day was a big blowout sale of Sherlock Holmes, of Graceless, of Bernie Summerfield, of Iris Wildthyme, of Dorian Gray. And then you have this coming out, and then shortly after this comes out, we are told that Graceless Series 4 will come out again, even though Graceless was supposed to have stopped after Series 3. Sherlock Holmes will be back, but we were surprised before, like about, I think 3 weeks before this, that Iris Wildthyme was going to come back. And I'm just kind of disturbed that this whole thing is almost kind of like a marketing ploy. Oh, what are your thoughts?
Maybe, but at the same time, I have listened to it, and it was, it was a good rock, like I said, my only gripe with it off air was that, again, spoilers people if you've not listened to it, but it was a good build up. I loved the stories, but the resolution and the villain of the piece, one, was never described. Two, never had a part, and it was just, inunderstandable, language, or non-understandable, just garbling, basically. And they were there for about a minute, and they get foiled by Benny and some, and another person on the team. But apart from that, it was a good, it was a good, good sort of story, thing. And I like the fact that Dorian and Sherlock got to meet again, and Benny meets Vienna and little things like that, and that was quite cool. So yeah, that was fun. So I don't know, maybe, but again, I like the little interactions here of there of certain certain characters. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, I will listen to it. I did pick that up, but I did have a couple issues with, like the timing of everything and bringing back all these series, like for example, Graceless and Iris Wildthyme, where I remember when Iris was canceled and you were really bummed about that. And it's just like a whole timing thing where uh Big Finish is doing great, which I absolutely love because they do quality work. But and I know that they're, it's also a corporation, they're trying to get money, but I feel as though they're doing stuff more sometimes they're doing stuff more for the money than for the fans. But, I mean, not that I didn't, like, pick up, like, 6 seasons of Bernie Summerfield when they were, like, at this crazy blowout extravaganza price. I'm not gonna say that that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, dude. I mean, dude, for the entire 11 series on CD, it's 150 quid, which is brilliant.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
that's fantastic. Like, I paid way more when I got them all.
In fact, the only reason why I stopped at series 7 or 6 was because of all the tie-in books that I felt as though I'd be obligated to buy, because there were tie-in books between series that I felt as though I'd heard rumors that you needed to read just to be in the know.
Yeah, which annoyed me a bit. That's why I was always a bit meh. I like the character of Benny, but why are you doing this? You're primarily an audio company. Well, you are an audio company. Why are you doing this? You're depriving me of stuff I can't read.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, with that is the news, and we will go into the I just had a brain fart. We will go into the releases for the month of April and then quickly hit the month of May real quick.
Should we do the review of the Two Doctors first? Then leave it.
Let's do the Two Doctors first. Excellent idea. All right. So when last we met, we were going over the Two Doctors. I had watched the first 2 episodes without watching them, and then hadn't listened to the third one. So,
Yeah.
just to reprieve, very dialogue driven. I feel as though that this story was really well developed. I love I love how whenever they would switch from one scene to another, you could tell what was going on just by the background music. You'd get like that little guitar sound, and you knew they were in Spain,
Yeah.
even though it took them 51 minutes and 16 seconds for them to acknowledge that they were in Seville.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the music that they had for the Sontarans in that episode, I really think they should bring back. It was just awesome.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I like that. Um, so I had not listened to episode 3, so I finally finished it off, and I know you had a couple questions for me. So what were your questions regarding? Because
How does the Shokai, the main Androgen?
yeah, the Androgen, yeah.
Androgen?
As I was listening to it, I felt as though, just like you said, it sounds really, really violent. And yeah, when I watched it, I was surprised, first off, what the doctor did. I mean, the doctor essentially, he ran to some camp and found some materials, gathered them together, and it looked like, I mean, just of course, it was just on like the 1980s Doctor Who budget, so it probably was like some form of like dry ice or something like that. And it looked like he was just going to make something to. I thought initially maybe bomb, maybe something, maybe gas, because I remember just kind of sound. What had happened was the doctor ran, hid, waited for Shockeye to come, threw like a not kind of like a mesh bag over Shockeye's face, and then this concoction that he made and shoved it over his mouth, essentially like suffocating him to death.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm. In fact, to me, the death that was more surprising, the one that was more gruesome, was the Centauran that survived the time displacement test. I mean, he goes in because he thinks everything's going to work out. He comes out and he's coughing. He's coughing up green stuff. His skin is like oozing green stuff all over, which is probably like Centauran blood. But I mean, he is in immense pain. It looks disgusting. And I was surprised, like, that was more horrific than Shockeye's death out of the two.
I don't remember that one. I guess it was not as auditorily violent, maybe? I don't know. I can't remember that one overly.
Yeah, you hear the sound of the time capsule take off and then immediately land, and he pops out. It's all smoky and gassy, and he's just all covered in green stuff. It's just like oozing off of him. You can tell he's barely alive. When I was listening to it, all you could hear is just and not knowing what that was, it was kind of a tad bit confusing. But I felt as though that was probably the most visually, when I rewatched it, that was the most visually disturbing like images, I guess you could say. Whereas Shockey's death, I guess the only thing disturbing about that is the doctor physically suffocated somebody to death on screen.
Which is, I suppose, not like is it raw?
No.
Well, and not like him, but this is Colin Baker, so
Yeah.
I think he was a doctor to do the most undoctorish type things.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I could say kind of, I suppose, in a way, sort of slightly Hartnell, because he was, obviously, if you look back at the An Unearthly Child, he's going to go, brain like caveman. So, maybe.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see, any other questions you had? Because I think we could.
No. Did you go back and listen to the right at the start with Troughton? The console room was different. The TARDIS. Did you notice that the TARDIS he was in right at the beginning was different to usual?
I did not. I listened to it. I could not tell. That mean you just have zero.
There is a different. It's a lower hum. It's a different hum. Really. Usual. Well, his TARDIS. Plus, it's different because you can tell the console room is different from what I hear. Look wise, and of course he's got different coloured hair, and he has the recall device,
Yeah.
stat remote. So yeah,
So I'd like to suggest our next classic Doctor Who series to watch. I'd like to suggest watching crap, now I forgot what it was. I didn't even write it down because I was like, I won't forget it. And I forgot it. Let's see. Oh, what was it? It's a Fifth Doctor story with the Silurians and the Sea Devils.
Warriors of the Deep.
Warriors of the Deep. Yes, I want to suggest that as our next one to watch/listen to. The reason why is this one is considered one of the worst episodes, and it's because of
The Merker.
the Merker, who is essentially two guys who generally play like the front end and the bottom end of a donkey or a horse, dressed in like the world's worst costume ever.
I've only got the Warriors of the Deep, like the audio narration.
Oh, okay.
It's the only Davison story that they did in audio narration. So I've only got that because I thought, well, what's the point? What's the point in having the audio narration and then having it with just no narration? Do you know what I mean? So I can do that if you want.
Now, why didn't you listen? Why didn't you listen to your version? I will watch it without the audio narration. And this would be a good just to go back and forth between the two, because the audio description could give some better images to you. So maybe you could help me through this. And maybe what I won't do is I won't watch it, because it's been probably about a year or so since maybe two since the last time I watched it. So
I've never actually seen this one.
so maybe I won't even watch it at all, and you can just you can listen to the whole thing with the audio narration, and perhaps you could be the one to fill in the gaps.
Right. Okay. All right. I'll give it a go.
Okay.
Sure.
Excellent. So if you want to listen along with us or watch along with us, our next selection for the month of June will be Warriors of the Deep. Wow, June. Can't believe that.
I know, crazy, huh?
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, moving on to the reviews. We're going to start our first review with the main range. This is April's main range review for the month of April. It is The Defectors, starring Sylvester McCoy and Katie Manning. Let's see, the little premise of this is Jo Grant is shocked to find most of her colleagues are missing. Then she discovers that the Doctor has inexplicably changed. But there's no time to worry about that, because she and her misplaced Time Lord friend are whisked away to a mysterious island, Delphine Isle, on a matter of national security. There, they encounter a disturbingly odd form of local hospitality, and learn of a heavily classified incident that took place during the Cold War. Why exactly have they been brought here, and why is the truth concerning the bodies of the blah blah. I'm just gonna stop reading that right now. All right.
And just to say that the local disturbing form of hospitality isn't Greg's the Baker's. I personally didn't like this story much. No. It was too slow, too kind of predictable. Don't get me wrong, I liked Katie Manning and McCoy's interaction. It just was an annoying story.
See, I felt as though it really harnessed the Third Doctor's era. I mean,
Which I can sum up in two sentences. Well, one, either alien invasion happens. Either the aliens are friendly, but either somehow the Doctor ends up inadvertently killing them, or Unit kills them. Or two, alien invasion happens, and yes, they are hostile, and Unit kills them. That's kind of the third Doctor Zero, really.
Don't forget the mad scientist, because there's always mad scientists. But yeah, but I don't know. I really like this. This was fun. This reminded me of watching the Sea Devils. I mean, whisked away, going to do something. This reminds me of like the Claw of Axos, where the aliens come down and they do some investigation. It reminds me. The Third Doctor and the Fourth Doctor are the first two Doctors that I ever came in contact with on TV here. I really have a strong love for them, even though, yes, it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. It was so fun. It was
sorry.
It was a fun story. I mean, running through corridors. I love the only thing that to me that really got old, and it happened in the next story, which was the Last of the Cybermen, was the companion not believing they're the Doctor. After that, I mean, for at least, I believe for both of them, both the Last of the Cybermen and this one, the Defectors, the first two episodes, both companions, Joe Grant, and then the other one, Jamie and Zoe, are constantly, "You're not the Doctor. You're not the Doctor. You're not the Doctor." And finally, about
I think it was more Jamie that was doing that. Zoe believed. I think Jamie started to believe him in the second episode.
Second, almost third, I believe it seemed like. But that was the only thing that really got tiring. And at least in this one, Joe just kept on saying, "Well, my Doctor would do this," and then Sylvester McCoy and he'd go, "Yeah, I would do that." And I love how they even like made mention, this is what John Pertwee's Doctor would do. And it just, I love like the whole variation of what happened. And then here's my question, because I'm looking at the cast right now. Was that Tim Treloar at the very end of The Defectors?
I don't know.
Because he's not given credit for it, but the Third Doctor.
Have you heard the Third Doctor box set trailer?
No, I'll tell you why.
It is very good. I mean, I'm not one really for the Third Doctor's era. He's probably my least favorite Doctor. I would say at a pinch, it's him and Hartnell. I know probably people are going, "Oh my God, Hartnell, original Doctor, heathen." But hey, but I'm looking forward to that box set a lot. Actually, he does sound a lot like Pertwee. There's just some things he says. He's like, "Yeah, that's Pertwee." And it's fun and all right, okay, yeah, it's an impression.
Mhm.
But and I think again, I was talking to my friend about it on the phone today. People are like, and like he was saying, people moan about how they don't sound the same or how they're different, and it's just like, well, yeah, dude, it's a show that's been like it's a 51-year-old show, 52-year-old show now. People aren't going to sound the same, but hey, aren't you just glad that they're still doing it?
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? So I just think that it's going to be a good it's going to be an interesting box set. And one thing I'd want to see Big Finish do, since we are actually going to do move on to the Cybermen, is for the Third Doctor to actually properly meet the Cybermen.
I would like that. I really would. I mean, the only Third Doctor story we have with the Cybermen is the Companion Chronicles Bluetooth, which
and it's not really the Cybermen, is it?
it's amazing. I love that story. That is great. Oh, it was so great. Oh, but yeah, I would love the Third Doctor to meet the Cybermen. Yeah.
But no, honestly, I would recommend you listen. I know you don't like to listen to trailers, but listen to the trailer. It's awesome. It will really I think it will really get you.
I accidentally listened to a trailer the other day, and I don't think I can listen to the episode. I bought it. I bought the whole fourth season of the Fourth Doctor Adventures, and I accidentally listened to the I was jogging at the time, just listening to
Ravenhouse?
no, the one before that. What was the one before that?
Deathmatch.
Deathmatch. I was listening to Deathmatch, and I just was, in rhythm, not going to change whatever. And I listened to it, and I listened to the trailer for Suburban Hell, and it reminded me of a situation about 5 years ago about 6 years ago when I was watching Doctor Who, the new series for the first time. And I just barely had experienced the horrible Love and Monsters. And then it said next time on Doctor Who, and the teaser was for Fear Her. And the instant I saw that trailer, I hit next.
It
And Suburban Hill looks to me what Fear Her looks like.
I'm gonna say it. I was kind of surprised because to find out afterwards that it was written by Alan Barnes, I was like, hang on, I've just had Last of the Sidemen, which is a brilliant story, and then this, and it maybe because I don't appreciate what he was trying to reference in the interviews and stuff. He was trying to do the whole I can't remember what the play was he mentioned. Something to do with a whole suburban play. I've not seen it, or watched it or whatever. But for me, the first episode was just annoying. The It just didn't go anywhere, and the characters mainly just pissed me off. They were just annoying characters. Like, if I was in that situation, I would have either walked out or, you know, punched these two people in the face by now. In that first episode. But it didn't turn out the way I was expecting. The episode,
In a good way or a bad way?
yeah, in a good way. Like, I didn't see what was coming. Well, I saw some bits that were coming, but others I was like, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. But no, for me, no, Suburban Hell wasn't the best.
And here's the interesting thing about like what you said regarding Alan Barnes is I'm a part of 2 Big Finish Facebook groups, and one of them, I think the one that you belong to, I think really likes Alan Barnes. And I want to say the other one that I belong to went on a huge rant about how miserable they were about the idea of 2 Alan Barnes written shows done in 1 month. They said this will be the worst month to listen to in the history of Big Finish. So I'm very interested because because of what you just said. I am interested in listening to this, but honestly, I could it took me 2.5 years to actually watch Fear Her because the instant I saw the preview for it, I realized I had no interest in it and just moved on to the next one. And I feel as though I could do the same thing with Suburban Hell. I own it. I think I could go 2 years without listening to it. But I think I might just because of both of these Facebook groups. One of them really into what Alan Barnes does, the other one the exact opposite.
And I mean, plus, you obviously want to review it when I review it because
Exactly.
opinions going and stuff.
I'll have to review it I'll have to give my take in June. Yeah.
See, this isn't. I want you to listen to Terror Books. I want your opinion. And no, yes.
Oh, all right. Because we're reviewing two.
Man, you're physically cringing.
Because we're reviewing 2 months in 1 month, we'll go to the next Big Finish main range release, which is what?
Just before we move on to that release, did you get the reference in these effectors though? The one reference that I think I know who is screwing around with his time stream.
No, I did not get the reference.
Really? It's like yes.
I know, that's what annoys me because I'm gonna have to re-listen to the whole thing.
There wasn't a reference in Last
There wasn't,
Supper.
but no, I swear they were.
No, there wasn't.
There
There was
wasn't. Are you sure?
yes, positive. No, the one reference in the defectors. I can't remember. One of the security guards or whatever turns around to the doctor and says, "Huh, for king and country." And he says, well, "What did you say?" I was like, "Ooh, Forge, yes."
Oh.
It was just, I mean, it was just the way McCoy said it as well. It's like, "Ooh, this is gonna get good."
Moving on to the better of the main range releases is Last of the Cybermen. This takes place 10 years. Let's see. Here's the synopsis. It has been 10 years. Let's see if I can read. Let's see. It's been 10 years since. Why are you laughing? I know. Yeah, I have 2 weeks left. My brain is slowly going on vacation.
X.
I'm trying to make an excuse that's plausible. That even I would believe. Okay, synopsis. It's been 10 years since the final assault on Telos, the last act of the Great Cyber War. Thanks to the glitter gun, humanity prevailed, and the half-machine Cybermen were utterly obliterated. Out of the furthest fringes of the galaxy, however, they have left their mark in the form of a giant cyberhead hundreds of feet high, which is never really explained. A monument? A memorial? A tomb? The Doctor, the Cybermen's most adversary, set out to investigate, but he fails to return to the TARDIS. Leaving the ship, his two companions, brave Highlander Jimmy McCrimmon and superintelligent Zoe Harriet, find a stranger in the Doctor's place, a stranger in a coat of many colors who insists that he is the Doctor, transposed in time and space with one of his former selves. But why here? Why now? Has the universe really seen the last of the Cybermen? Again, this is written by Alan Barnes, and it features Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, Fraser Hines as Jamie, and Wendy Padbury as Zoe, and a great performance by, I think, Nick Briggs. He did a great job as Lanky.
Although, to be fair, I have spoken to a Northerner, and he has said that the accent is shit.
Well, I'm gonna get. I was gonna ask that, but I was gonna get to accents when we started talking about the novelizations, because I do have a problem with the accents and the novel adaptations. But yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Which accent?
Oh, we'll get to that in a second, because I'm gonna offend everybody with ears when we get to this part. Anybody who has ears will be offended instantly by what I'm going to do when we get to the novelization. So I really like this story. Like I said before air, I had the hugest problem with this story at the very beginning, because essentially, to me, this story was identical for the most part to Tomb of the Cybermen. In fact, somewhere in episode 2, they even make reference, haven't we done this before, on Telos in Tomb of the Cybermen? And I was just like, Alan Barnes, you dick. And I sit there thinking, this is why everybody on this one fan page thinks that you're a crap writer. And suddenly episode 3 comes around and it just changes everything. And then episode 4 pops up, and it's one of those things that literally blew my mind in certain instances. My mouth dropped open. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I was from episode 1, to be fair.
What was that?
I was from episode 1, to be fair. So, and I swear they explained the head.
I can't remember why. I think they may have explained the head, but like I said, I was the first 2 episodes, I just sat there rocking in my chair, just going, "This is Tomb of the Cybermen. This is Tomb of the Cybermen, or this is Tomb of the Cybermen," and it was just making me so angry.
Were you getting green?
Possibly. I didn't, become gigantically muscular and to start destroying things. No, but yeah. But no, this was a great story. I loved Captain Frank.
Yeah, he was cool.
Xenon was an amazing villain. However, her villain was very predictable, especially when they threw out the whole Tomb of the Cybermen reference. It's like, I know what she's gonna do.
Mm.
And then, but I did find her death so comical because even if I was a logical person and I saw my impending death happen to me, I wouldn't. My last words would not be, "This is logical." I'd be like, "Oh crap, I've ruined my life."
Yeah. And it explains really. A friend on email pointed out it explains why Klieg was the way he was.
Mm-hmm.
Boom,
Yes.
which I thought was quite cool.
I like that reference. I also liked how they broke into Zoe's training facility when she was before we met her on the Wheel of Space. So I really liked how it gave us more of who Zoe was.
Yeah. And did you think that it was kind of hinting at her future in the Companion Chronicles? You know, the stuff after, in a way.
Well, because they did make reference to her memory in there. But the thing that surprised me though is the doctor, like they almost they never even made mention. I mean, if I was the sixth doctor and I knew what was going to happen when she returned to the wheel in space, I mean, with what had happened from Legend of the Cybermen, I would have been like horrified. But he just is like, "Oh, you'll be going here and you'll be going here." But from what happened in Legend of the Cybermen, I would have been like, "Oh," and then Jamie, you get to return to Scotland, and then and of course, and he goes and find a girl with childbearing hips. That's not the part. That's not the part that's going to offend people with ears. It just is just the premise or the. But you constantly have that happening, but then and then the Sixth Doctor is just like, yes, and Zoe will return to that wheel in space. Where I feel as though it would have been like, and then Zoe returns to the wheel. Because he should know that when she gets back, that wheel is going to be attacked and most of her friends and colleagues are going to be cyberized from Legend of the Cybermen.
I don't remember. Were they?
Yeah, because the last episode, Sixth Doctor asks her what's going on, what has happened, and she said, well, the moment I came back from the wheel, this is what happened, and blah, 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 blah. And then a portal opened to the land of fiction, and that's where she retreated to.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so she's gonna go back when she goes back to the wheel in space. It immediately gets seized.
But have you just thought that it might be before that?
Maybe it is before that, because if I was the Sixth Doctor, I would have been like horrified at the thought of her going back to the wheel.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. I think the reason why I forgot about it was because I was so annoyed that Jamie was, a fiction.
Yes.
It wasn't him. That annoyed me.
Yeah, that was kind of obnoxious, but it kind of makes sense at the same time, though.
Yeah, it does, but it's still, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the Fourth Doctor adventures, we're going to start with Deathmatch. I don't know. Do we need to review Suburban Hill, or do you feel as though we've?
I read it personally.
Okay.
Not my cup of tea, but in some respects.
All right.
But there are worse Fourth Doctor titles.
And that's the review from Liam for Suburban Hill. Not his cup of tea. So April's release for the Fourth Doctor Adventures is Deathmatch, which was written by Matt Fitton, stars the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, Leela, K9, and we have the Master. This is part 2 of a 2-part story. Part 1 was Requiem for the Rocketmen. This was the second one. This takes place right after the end when the Fourth Doctor thinks that Leela has been what?
Kidnapped or whatever, or gone, or
Yeah.
whatever. Which I must admit, I don't know if I said this in the previous podcast, but I did re-listen to Requiem.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
And on a second listen through, I actually didn't mind it as much. I quite like it. I still think that Shandar is basically Phil Mitchell in space.
Okay.
But
Could be worse. Could be David Mitchell.
well, no, if it was David Mitchell in space, he'd probably be take Ian Nain and wouldn't know what the fuck to do.
That is true.
But yeah, yeah, deathmatch. Yeah, it was. I remember it now.
All right. I will read the synopsis. I will try to read the synopsis. I'll say that. I want my summer vacation so bad. Synopsis. The deathmatch is under new management. The Hunt Master. Oh, okay. So before I begin, I love this because this like essentially brings back the war games. This is essentially the war games part 2. So back to yes, it makes references to the Time Lords doing war games before actual the Second Doctor war game story. So this is like it.
When does he mention that? I don't remember that.
The Fourth Doctor's talking to the Master, and I think somebody else is there, or maybe it's not the Master, but he's talking about my people did this a while back, and it's just wrong to use people as sport, even though you are better than them. Blah 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 blah. This has happened before. So he kind of makes reference to the war game. So first off, he makes mention that his people did that. Second off, it makes mention that that this has been done before by another rogue Time Lord. And I like this because I love how the Master essentially why he kidnapped Leela. And
well, the fact that because she was kind of the ultimate hunter and.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love what was the character Castriella, who is essentially the Master falls in love. I love it.
Is it me, or did she? I don't know about you, but she reminded me of oh god, what's her name? Game of Thrones. Marjorie's grandmother.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, is it Elena of Thorns?
I can't think of the name, but I know who you're talking about. And yes, and if you spoil anything for me, I will get on the next flight to England and I will hunt you down. Death match.
Tyrion dies.
That's it. Booking flight now. No, I really liked Deathmatch. It was fun, but however, I just loved Requiem for the Rocket Man more. I felt as though like it didn't need to be a 2-part episode. It made like an intriguing why Leela was captured, and I like that it was a 2-part episode that really there was no teaser for the 2-part episode. Unlike the War Against the Land, where you're just like, oh, okay, so the first one where we were meeting the Land. And now it's the War Against the Land. Okay, well, there we go. I like that this was essentially a 2-parter, but even when we get like the quick reprieve from what had happened in the last part of Requiem for the Rocket Man, but it's not like one of those seriously long reprieves where we needed to know every single thing that happened. All you needed to know is the Doctor saw Leela leave, and then you heard Leela get kidnapped again, or get kidnapped. And then you're like, okay, good to go. Because at least sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes when there's those obvious 2-parters, I need to re-listen to the first one in order to feel as though I can understand the next one.
Depends on the story. I think. Sometimes, yeah.
So it is a good story. Not looking forward to listening to Suburban Hell, but I will for the month of June, and I'll give you my.
Yeah. Like I said, it's all right. It's got good elements, some good points. But there are worse Fourth Doctor stories that I can name. I mean, we've gone over the problems of this range generally before, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
and I think Tom Baker should stick to box sets personally.
Yes, I agree.
And they should get Terrence Dicks.
Oh, heck yeah. I want a Terrence Dicks box set. That's what I want. If they can do a Philip Hinchcliffe box set, I want a Terrence Dicks box set. I want to have another box set, an Eric Sayward box set, because he did some of the really good violent ones, like Earthshock, Revelations of the Daleks. I mean, he did some really good ones. So I would like box sets by those. I'm submitting my request in for Big Citizens right now.
Others saying Colin Baker killing the Andrigan.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize, but Earthshock, of course, Davison kills his Cyberman.
That is true. But Colin Baker's constantly killing people all the way through his range. I mean, he's so yeah. Moving on to the one I'm most eager about, the novel adaptations. So the first novel adaptation is The Well-Mannered War, written by Gareth Roberts, originally adapted for audio by John Dorney. This features the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, Lala Ward as Romana, John Leeson as K9, and we get a character back from The Romance of Crime. We get Michael Troughton, who is playing Menlove Stoves. Stokes. It's Stokes.
I thought it was Damage Goods first, then Well-Mannered War.
What was that?
Yeah, it's Damage Goods first.
Well, I have this down as number 5, so we'll just go with it. So this was out of all 3 Gareth Roberts audio novelizations, and I'm not counting The Highest Science. I'm just counting The Romance of Crime, The English Way of Death, and The Well-Mannered War. This is the best of his book ranges.
Yeah, I kind of want them to pick up where it ended, because it's like an annoying cliffhanger that I want them to resolve.
It is an annoying cliffhanger. However, I believe the neatest thing about it is this was the last Missing Adventure book published by Virgin before and then Virgin lost the license. And so I would like them to get with Gareth Roberts to do a continuation of this, because yes, it does leave on a great cliffhanger. I love the...
It's just think it would be kind of an injustice if they didn't, be fair.
Exactly.
Because it does it, because it, again, you're saying with the whole thing of canon and tying in, but it does tie into stuff, because it's the whole, Black Guardian here and there and things. So it does tie in.
I love the Black Guardian too, because even though he is listed on the cast, I never saw that coming. I never saw it coming.
No, I didn't.
And here's what I like about this release. To me, The Romance of Crime was pretty simple plot-wise.
Good.
No, it was good.
But
it was simple. I mean, you have this mask, you have this, crime that's going to happen, and you have this villain, this super intelligent villain that's going to do something. Then in The English Way of Death, you have this mysterious gas thing. You have this mad scientist person. You have this alternate, reality type thing where they go off, and it's just a little bit more intricate. If that, I can't speak for some reason. And then you have The Well-Mannered War, which is just everywhere. I mean, you have what are those aliens called? I can't think of what they're called. Yeah, the Chelonians. You have the Chelonians.
I want more of the tea drinking, polite Chelonian. He was awesome.
Yes.
He was cool.
But you have the Chelonians, you have these other people, then you have this other world, then you have K9 running for office, then you...
That was good.
Then and then suddenly the Black Guardian comes out of nowhere. It was amazing. It was the best of Gareth Roberts' releases ever.
Yeah. So, this is what I'm thinking. Was this book set before or after The Highest Science? Because look at the Chelonians and the war and how it all ends, and
I don't know if it has to take place before or after the highest science, because essentially what happens is you have these Chelonians that were supposed to leave, but those computers essentially brainwashed them into staying. So the Chelonians, whatever, regardless of what they're wherever it is in their timeline, they've been conditioned to want to stay and conquer this planet in the most politest way possible. And so because I was thinking of the same thing. I'm just like, what's their end game? And once it was revealed that they were essentially brainwashed, it was like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
All right. But no, I must admit, I give as another fact that there's this Chilean general who drinks lap sang Shanti, the Saturday music. And the fact that he's got a speech impediment too, I thought was quite funny.
All right. And the last one that we're going to release or discuss before we move on is Damaged Goods. This one was written by Russell T. Davies, adapted by Jonathan Morris. It features the Seventh Doctor, and for the first time in audio format, we have the companions Chris Quidge, and we have Roz Forrester. And this was a really interesting story it was hard for me to follow at the very beginning, because it is...
Yeah, I know what you mean. It wasn't the easiest thing to follow. And I didn't get the reference. I didn't. But do you know why that guy was in the graveyard?
I'm not 100% sure.
I didn't know, but basically it's what they used to do. He was waiting for gay sex.
Oh.
Yeah. And I didn't pick up on that until a friend said, and I was like, really? I was like, oh, okay. But no, he was waiting for gay sex. Yeah. And that's what they used to do. And currently kind of in the 80s, apparently. So you were saying that the book was, a lot of it was cut out and a lot of it, So, but I think there was references in there that was a bit more, you had to look for them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Number one, and I had no idea.
Well, apparently, Chris Quidge, really goes to town on a couple guys in the book. The doctor gets crazy high and is doped up on drugs in the book and stuff like that.
Right.
And yeah, and apparently, and so they really cleaned up a lot of it, from my understanding.
Sure, but I mean, it's still quite a dark story.
Oh, it is. It is.
My one gripe though with it, the theme tune.
Yeah,
Just
see,
why?
And here's what I'm gonna say, because the theme tune really kind of put me off, and this goes back to our original discussion about essentially the Star Wars discussion. I feel as though this story is kind of out there a little bit and cannot be considered canon. Therefore, and this is just my theory, that's why they changed the theme tune. That's my theory. Because it is Doctor Who. It is written by the guy who brought back Doctor Who to the television.
But he is tying it into the new series.
And it is being tied into the new series. But remember, the new adventures are out there. I don't know. It's not my belief, but this is my reasoning behind why the theme is different, is because it kind of is and isn't canon.
But you can't say that it's not canon, because Doctor Who, there is no canon. Because of what it is and the nature of the show, there is no canon. Whereas with Star Wars, for example.
Well, for example, no.
There is no time travel, really.
Well, there is canon.
Lines are not possible.
Doctor Who is canon. The only thing that, as far as my understanding, that is not canon is the Unbound, because that just goes out of the Doctor Who universe completely.
No, actually, I think the only thing that isn't canon, if we're going to be pernickety about this, I believe is the dimension. No, sorry, not dimensions. Is the Death Comes to Time
Okay.
one, because of the fact that there is it's hinted at that the Seventh Doctor basically dies at the end of that story. So I think that sure the Unbound is
Well,
is
Unbound is definitely
well,
obviously not canon because that's why it's called Unbound.
I mean it
Because
is
they're unbound by following the rules.
yeah, but I mean it is canon in the sense that it's what if this could have happened. So it's canon in the fact that it took place in an alternative timeline, but it's not canon in the sense that it's obviously not part of the main bit of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Whereas you can include all the novels of Doctor Who and still say that they are canon. Just as an alternative timeline. Because of what Doctor Who is and what happens in Doctor Who. But I mean that's what I mean with Star Wars. That's my biggest gripe is that I've grown up for the past 20 odd years on the novels that they're writing and were writing up until recently. Until Disney bought out LucasArts with Star Wars, and then they've just turned around and gone, well, yeah, those novels you were reading and you enjoy and whatever, they're no longer not going to be part of the universe, and we're not gonna, even consider them in the films, and even do anything to do with them at all. We're gonna go and just do our own thing. And that's what hooks me, and there's no reason. They've just said, well, it's an alternative timeline. There's no in universe reason. They've just done it because they can, and
Well,
that's what kind of annoys me a bit.
Well, just to be the devil's advocate, one of my closest friends hates Doctor Who, loves Star Wars, and he says that he's gotten to the point, what was it, about 10 years ago, he stopped reading the Star Wars novels because there was no consistency. For example, he said the instant he called it quits was there was a novel released like in maybe 99, 2000. I can't remember when it was released, but he's a huge fan, owned every single one of them, read them all religiously. And there was this one where I think like Princess Leia had like this psychic telepathy-ish power, and she was using it to control people or to I have not read it, so I could be distorting it, but essentially this is what he told me. He said, he goes, "This was really cool. I really like this aspect because to me it opened up the Force. However, in the next two preceding books, Princess Leia would get in trouble, and as I was reading it, he said, I was hoping she would be able to just, whip this thing out and get herself out of this mess. But it never happened. It only existed in this one book." So he reread that book, trying to find out, well, maybe she got like nailed in the head or, had some emergency surgery and got like this side frontal lobe thing taken out, which took out her mental telepathy. No, nothing happened. This writer wrote it for entertainment purposes only. And the next couple of writers, even though they're supposed to follow a story arc to some extent, chose to ignore this new thing that was being put in. And he told me, he's like, I can no longer read another Star Wars book. I will read all of the classic stuff. I have a couple favorites from here and there. He goes, but the rest of my Star Wars collection books got put on eBay and I sold them all because I just don't care because there is no consistency.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, well, and for the novels, I mean, for me, the ones I think are good, like the new Jedi Order stuff, which is 30, 40 years after Return of the Jedi. Luke and Leia have kids. They're Jedi and all that as well, and then all that stuff's going on, and that's cool. But they're not considering that in the new movies, and they're just, and again, they're just adding in things. They're just adding in and changing things like, one of the characters dies in the movie, in Revenge of the Sith, but then gets retconned by Lucas in that, yeah, she survives and then gets killed later. And it's just, for God's sake, just why? Just stop screwing around with stuff and saying it's canon because you're the one writing it and because you can do it. Do it. You know what I mean? It's like Moffat. I think he's kind of doing what, I think he's doing what, to New Who, what Lucas and Disney are sort of doing to Star Wars. They're just saying and doing it because they can and they like it and because, they're the one in control of it. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of what fans think.
Well, here's a question I'd like to pose to you then, because there is a community that does not accept Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor.
Really? I didn't know that.
Because in the TV movie, he says he's half human.
Yeah.
Where and before has he ever been half human? He's all Time Lord. It was only to help put on the plot. And I've read in several places where some writers wanted to do a throwaway line. I think it was Russell T Davies. He wanted to do a throwaway line in one of the first series of Doctor Who where he just said, the Ninth Doctor makes some comment and says, yeah, I was half human for a day once. Just to get that out of the way, because I think it was RTD that believes that, the TV movie should be canon, but lots of people don't really like it because, first off, the Doctor being allowed to go to Skaro, which was destroyed by the Seventh Doctor, to go collect the remains of the Master. Why would the archenemy of the Daleks be allowed anywhere near there? But also, what the hell happened in Remembrance of the Daleks? Wasn't that Skaro destroyed? So there you have that continuity, and then you have.
But then why not? Well, he's a Time Lord. They can go back down the timeline, surely. So he obviously went back down the timeline to when Skaro wasn't destroyed.
Okay, so that may be because it with time travel things are not linear. But how can he be half human for a day?
I don't know. Well, that's a fair point, and I haven't got an answer for you. And yeah, that's a fuck up, and that's.
Well, there's not only that, but and this goes into it wasn't brought up by Dr. Squee in the Gallifrey Stands podcast, but I would like to shout out that one of his most recent guests on the podcast was Paul Cornell. Fantastic listen. Strongly recommend it. What was not brought up in that interview is something that he, along with a couple other writers, did in 1996, writing the discontinuity guide of Doctor Who, because we as fans see lots of continuity everywhere. But when it comes to continuity, Paul Cornell and a couple other writers were able to write an entire 288-page book proving the discontinuity between stories in this, range of TV book novelization stuff. So just because we see continuity there, he was able to go through and do a 288-page book on how discontinuity exists in this continuity-heavy series.
Sure. Have you read it?
I got it on ebook. I have skimmed it. I have not read it. I just barely picked it up because to actually own the physical copy, I'd have to pay about £50 or so, and I'm not willing to do that.
All right.
And I hate reading ebooks too, because the backlight of an iPod or an iPad just drives me crazy.
Just do what I do and just turn the voiceover on. Just there you go.
That's good. So, final thoughts for Damaged Goods, the book that was written originally by Russell T Davies in 1996. Liam?
No, yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good story. And some parts caught you had to, really pay attention, I thought.
Mhm.
Uh, again, there were, little references to edgier stuff that was in there, which again I didn't pick up on until, I was told about a couple of things. Um, overall, yeah, good. Theme tune's terrible, but yeah. Looking forward to seeing how Big Finish will continue to tie in these novelizations into the actual uh main mythos of Doctor Who, really.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I like, again, if I could just piggyback off of something that Dr. Squee said to, or Paul Cornell said to Dr. Squee in his recent interview, is Paul Cornell would love Big Finish to do more of his books, but some of his are just so real, like, story arc. Like, what was it? He said one of them. He goes, I wouldn't want to be done because it's an awful story. And then he's like, the next one would be good, but you'd have to like have so much story built into it. Then the other one, you'd have to have even more story built into it. And he says his last one, you would essentially need the entire series to be done before for this to be understood.
Ah,
So, as I
well,
look at some of the
I mean, it's possible. I mean, because they're doing the origin story of Roz and Chris, aren't they?
yes, yeah.
So, and well, sorry, the origin and the end story, I think.
No,
So,
I was mistaken. I think I said that it was gonna be the end story. I was they might be able to do that. That one might be the to be announced later, but the origin story is the one that will be coming out in December of 2016, and then there's one that we still don't know that is also gonna be coming out in December of 2016. So I'm not quite certain which one it is, but
um, oh, I was assuming that there was one where Roz does die.
yes, she does. I thought, and I think we discussed this, and I misspoke and thought that there was one that they were going to do the one that Roz dies, but I am incorrect. It could be the one to be announced later, or maybe it was to be announced and then they took it off the thing. But right now, where it stands is we have the theater of war. We have the all-consuming fire, which is going to be great because it's going to be the Sylvester McCoy and Sherlock Holmes. We have
Oh, it is.
yeah. Then we have Nightshade, which is a Mark Gatiss story. Then it's Original Sin, which is the introduction to Chris and Roz, and then we have the to be announced later. So
Yeah.
it will be interesting. I'm very excited for this, but yeah, the more I pay attention to these New Adventures book clubs on Facebook, the more I realize the New Adventures is really like content heavy. Writers took a lot of
Goodies.
yeah, and just went out on a limb. Like one of them, in the middle of the story, the Sixth Doctor appears, and I believe he turns into the Valeyard. And so
Yeah.
yeah, what?
Weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's exactly what happened. I do own the book. I'm very excited to read it, but I just follow along some of these like storylines for the New Adventure novels, and I'm very interested to find out where this goes. But so yeah, I love damaged goods. Like you said, you do have to pay very close attention because it is very kind of different, and there's like some subtle stuff that you just mentioned from before regarding why these two gentlemen were meeting in the graveyard. I had never heard of that before. So
So that makes two of us, and I'm fairly open in regarding general stuff anyway. So I probably didn't know that happened.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and it did make sense for now. It makes it's a tad bit more sense, but still, it's my only complaint, and I'm looking at I'm gonna bookshelf my complaint for the opening title sequence because I want to say that these ones, like we've mentioned before, the New Adventures are kind of just a little bit out there, just a tad bit, and so they might be part of like the Doctor Who canon, but because they're just kind of so out there, maybe that's why like the theme song changed. Or maybe this is like the Chris and Roz with the Seventh Doctor theme song. I don't know. I'm gonna table my complaints for right now, and the only complaint I really have is the complaint of the American doctor that works for Torchwood. Oh my
Really?
gosh. Oh my gosh.
What's so bad about it?
It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. So remember I was going to say that I was going to do something that offends everybody with ears. Well, this is going to happen. This is going to happen right now because and believe me, you've probably heard it, being English, and you've probably had stupid Americans come up to you all the time and just be like, "Hey, hey, I can talk like you, blah 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 blah," and it sounds probably something like this: "It's like, oi, hey, could I borrow a fiver so I could get a pint down at the pub? Oi." So I just offended everybody with ears, but as horrible as that sounds, that's what the Torchwood Doctor sounded like to me. The instant I heard it, it was just like it was so horrible. But I feel as though so many people who are kind of used to American accents heard it, and it was just like it's just like what would it be? It would be, for example, me walking to the local shop, and because this actually has happened, and a group of kids, for some reason or another, were just like, "Hi, good eye, mate. Hi, what's going on over here? Oh yeah, oh hi, I'm speaking," and it's just like, actually, you're speaking in an Australian accent, moron. But they're like, "Oh, I'm speaking with a British accent. Oh, I'm so cool. Oh, hey, aren't you cool too? Do you speak like this?" And they think it sounds right, and to like some people in America who aren't surrounded by English folk all the time might be like, "Oh, hey, they're probably not from our country." And I think it's the same thing with the American accent. If you think it sounds like it's right, you just go with it. But that's why like a minuet in hell bothers the crap out of me, because it is so the American accent is so horrible in that. But I
If you want horrible American accents, Invaders from Mars.
Oh, that is true. That one does have a couple good bad ones, but the Minuet in Hell has two, like it is basically takes place in America, and it's just American accent after American accent after American accent. It's just I can't handle it. So my only complaint for the Damaged Goods is the horrible Torchwood Doctor's American accent. It's so horrible. And
I have to introduce you to graphic audio. They're good stories, but they cannot do British, or Scottish, and it is.
oh, doesn't everybody sound like Sean Connery over there? I'd like to take another one.
No. Honestly, I have to show you some of the graphic audio stuff. Oh my! I mean, even you'll cringe. Trust me.
Okay, I trust you.
It is that bad.
Excellent. Next up on the list is Jago and Lightfoot Series 9.
Yeah.
Once last we met Jago and Lightfoot, they were on a cruise ship heading for not London. And like I told you off air, I was really concerned about this story because I feel as though London is like the entity that kind of that Jago and Lightfoot revolve around, whether they're escaping from the law, hiding from the law. The only time that it never really occurred was when they went with the Sixth Doctor to Venus and then to the New World on those adventures. But for me, Jago and Lightfoot, to me, always seems to need to be in London. And
Series 5 in London? I forget.
Series 5 was in 1960 something.
Yeah, but was it London? Though?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
London.
it was. Yeah.
Because, I'm glad you brought this up. One of the first few things that we hear when Jago and Lightfoot are boarding the ship is they make mention of they're boarding, and they see somebody and they hear his voice, and they say, "Hey, haven't we met before?" And he says, "No, we haven't." And it's, what is it? I think it's like sergeant, lieutenant. I can't remember what the rank is, but his last surname is Aubrey. And if you go to season 5, Aubrey is one of the people that work in the TV production center that Jago works at.
And the thing is, though, I thought that they had their memories wiped.
They did, and that's why they've just made the comment, "You seem familiar to me." And the gentleman, Aubrey, just goes, "I've never met you before in my life, sir." And he goes, "Oh, well, perhaps, you have like one of those similar looking faces, but it's the same actor,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Jamie Newell, and it's the same surname, which is Aubrey. So essentially, it's a family lineage that, for just a twinkle of an instant, both Jago and Lightfoot recalled what they did in the 1960s.
Yeah, and I kind of want them to actually remember that incident. I think just because that box set was so good, I kind of think it's sort of doing them a bit of a disservice.
Yeah.
In a sense.
No, it's one of my favorite box sets. In fact, like I told you before, that the theme music for Jago and Lightfoot, if in the 60s, is one of my ringtones. I love it so much.
Yeah.
So, starting off with Series 9 of Jago and Lightfoot, we have the setup story, the setup to the arc, which is The Flying Frenchman, written by Jonathan Morris. The next story is an individual one. It's called The Devil's Diceman, written by Justin Richards, featuring the phenomenal David Warner. Then we have the continuation of the arc, which is entitled Island of the Dead, written by Simon Bernard and Paul Morris. And the reveal of the whole arc is the last one, The Return of the Nightmare, written by Justin Richards.
So the Islands of Death, isn't it?
What was that? Oh, Islands of Death. What did I say?
Yeah. Dead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Death. Starting off, like the whole Flying Frenchman, like I said, I was really worried about this story to begin with. London not being there, they're leaving Ellie and what's the captain's name? Yeah. Inspector. Yeah, Inspector Quick. And leaving those two behind. But we are reunited with them in episode 4, which was just great.
Yeah.
And the Flying Frenchman was kind of neat because it was like a kind of Bermuda Triangle type of
meets Lost, wasn't it, almost?
Yeah, meets Lost, yeah. Really enjoyable.
Yeah, and kind of comical in certain respects.
Yes, I liked how the Jago and Lightfoot of London met parallel worlds Jago and Lightfoot's from different realities or possibilities, which you had to kind of set me straight with because that did bother me for some time. So
yeah, and I must admit I did like the relationship that they had with what's the woman called, the bachelorette,
Madam is it no, it's not what was it? It was who was it? Yes, the one that they are always trying to pawn the girl off on everybody. Yeah. Oh, Lady Isabella Danvers.
That's Danvers. That was it. Yeah, that was a cool little kind of banter between all three of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really liked. I think my favorite story was the second one, which was The Devil's Diceman. I loved the relationship that was forged between Lightfoot and David Warner's character.
Yeah. I'm glad that he's back for Series 10.
Yeah, so spoilers, if you're worried that David Warner's character died, he's coming back in Series 10. So it's really good, and it's funny because I do like the relationship that Jago has with Aubrey.
Yeah,
at the side too. It was very comical.
But kind of cool at the same time,
And the end, not to give anything away because I won't, but the end is absolutely hysterical. I don't know. I thought it was hysterical. A whole bunch of devil worshippers, and whatever happened. I just thought it was so hysterical.
Oh, what you mean in that particular story? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was good. The ending. It was quite funny.
The next one.
So it's me, or is it me, or have you noticed that Jaeger is kind of in this season seems to be more brave and not so kind of scared as much, you know?
It's interesting that you say that because here's one thing that I kind of feel why he might be a little bit more brave, and maybe I'm wrong, but 3 of the 4 stories took place on a boat or in an island that they desperately wanted to get away from. And so he either had the choices of either being dead or to, man up and be brave.
Mm. I don't know. It just seems like he's, I suppose he's been through for what he's been through, and he seems to be just a bit more.
Maybe he's growing up as a character.
Mm, mm.
The story I really didn't particularly care for was the middle one, or the third one, the Island of Death.
No, I didn't really either.
It was okay, but in fact, I was shopping when I was listening to it, and I literally I hate the LOL thing that people put in Twitter. I think it's absolutely stupid unless you actually did verbally laugh out loud. And but I absolutely laughed out loud while shopping in like this big gigantic grocery store, which it was also a little bit awkward because I was shopping all by myself, and so nobody was saying anything to me. But I laughed out loud when the leader of the cult was asked a couple of questions, and they said, "What's your membership?" And he goes, "I'm a membership of 1, but we're looking to expand."
Yeah.
I thought that was just great. Oh, I laughed so hard. I think I had a couple people just staring at me for a while, but you know what? It was great. I absolutely loved it.
So yeah, I 20th century nerd basically.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The last one was the reveal, the return of the nightmare, which I was so excited by the reveal because I will say I was worried that there was going to be like some like werewolfism type of a thing.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. The ending I thought was a bit weak.
it was weak, but I feel as though the easy cop out would have been, explaining it through a werewolf-ish type of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought the ending was a bit weak, but still enjoyable. I don't think there has been a bad series of Jake and Lightfoot at all really.
For anybody who hasn't listened to Jago and Lightfoot, because one of the things that was brought up on one of the Big Finish listeners groups is, besides the Doctor Who stuff from Big Finish, what would you recommend? Because this person was asking, I generally they do a good job, and honestly, to me, I have to say Jago and Lightfoot. I have to say Survivors.
Yes.
And I couldn't come up with a third one because people were giving threes. Jago and Lightfoot, Survivors. What would I say would be the third one? Everybody else was saying Sherlock Holmes, but and the other half were saying Bernie Summerfield. But I don't feel as though I know both of those.
Well, like I said, I'm gonna listen to catch up on the BBC stuff, and then jump onto Judgment, go from there. So I know.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say, once I finally just start thinking around and start watching Blake 7, I'm gonna, blindly go out and say Blake 7. So those are gonna be my 3: Jago Lightfoot, Survivors, Blake 7.
Yeah. How are you doing with that, by the way?
Still where we're at. I haven't moved at all. I've been listening to so many podcasts lately. It's been crazy. I've like
Sure.
my TV has not been turned on probably for like about a week or so.
Dude, you still need to get on that, man.
I do. But you know what? After I'm just trying to stay away from spoilers from Game of Thrones. And if Tyrion is dead, I will, for you spoil, if he's alive, I'll be happy. If he's dead and you spoil it for me, I'm booking the next flight to London, and I'm going to I'm going to track you down and just slap you across the face and then fly back. Okay, moving on to something else, not Doctor Who related. We have Blake 7, Truth and Lies. This is the last story of the second series of Full Cast Audios. This is also written by Justin Richards. Justin Richards has been very busy for the months of May and April. What were your thoughts on Truth and Lies?
Not bad. They got around the whole Dana issue. It was okay. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with the range now because of, did you read this post?
I did not.
Apparently, their Blake 7 after their British Chronicles Volume 12 is going on hiatus. They're not shutting the range down. They're just putting it on hiatus because they find out what would be the best, for sort of money, and things, and sort of, saving money and stuff. And personally, I prefer more full cast.
Oh, definitely.
More full cast, and do okay, but maybe do less, but do box sets.
Yeah.
Of full cast stuff.
Finally, and I'll turn this over to you after I introduce this. We have Terrahawks Volume 1. And you need to, shout at me, yell at me, shout at me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not digging this.
Honestly, I was skeptical. I was, I said the big finish, totally skeptical about this range, but kind of hooked, and they retweeted it, which I think shows, that, that's what I mean. I just thought, nah, it looks really cheesy, but it is full of little, especially, it is full of like a lot of English little tropes and idioms, and very kind of British, sense of humor,
Well, I appreciate British sense of humor. I mean, what is it? I stream on YouTube many like British TV shows that like luckily some person over there is thoughtful enough to upload them on YouTube so I can watch them. But it's not good. Oh.
Like I said, the first couple of episodes aren't the best. They're okay, but there are standout episodes. I mean, you've got the Club to Death one, which is just honestly that is hilarious. It is funny. Because yeah, have you ever seen any of those annoying kind of one day payday loan adverts?
Yeah.
Wonga loans.
Uh-huh.
They rip the piss out of that, to high heaven, and they take the piss out of Richard Branson, and what else? In the last story, they do a whole Terminator piss take, with like the little sort of sting, for the music, with like sort of the drums and, the whole kind of, apparently awesome, better, what they called cyberoids, I think, or something like that, or anyway, and they're meant to be like, better than the Zeroids. It just sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's funny. And then you get darker stories like A Clone of My Own, which goes into basically Zelda is killing off Einstein's clones, and like I said, it's varied. And I'd say it's got some good acting from Denise Breyer, who plays Zelda, and she's actually a really good actress. I mean, considering she's 87, she's doing a bloody good job.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Hitchin is hilarious. Just in the interview disc, he just sounds just like a total laugh. So yeah, no, I was very surprised.
I just It is not funny. And in fact, what was it? I told you off air. I didn't tell you the whole story. So I will say the last time I heard 1010 told to me, because that's a constant, like, over and out type of a thing that they do to death. I mean, they beat the horse to death with 1010, and then they resuscitate the horse just to beat it to death again.
I think you're kind of over exaggerating slightly.
It is so horrible. So I had listened to the first 2 episodes. I did not like a single moment of the first 2 episodes, except for when it was finally over, because I promised you I would give it a shot. And I go over to my parents' house. They are remodeling their kitchen, and in the backyard, the door to the backyard, they have, instead of having just like a new lock that has a key to it, they upgraded this to have a code word lock.
Really?
And so my dad's showing it off to me, and I'm like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And I'm like, "Well, what's the password?" He goes, "Well, right now it's 1010." And I look at him and I just go, "Ah!"
What? Oh my god, that's
And
hilarious.
he goes, "What?" I am like, I go, "I listened to this audio drama and they kept on saying 1010. I never want to hear the number 10 immediately followed by the number 10 for the rest of my life if possible." I hate it that much. It was the most unenjoyable experience ever. I hated it so much.
But no, like I said, give it something to go. Like I said, I was surprised.
It does have a following because they renewed it for a second series, which the instant I saw that, I was just like, oh. It might be,
But then it's like the Avengers. I can't get into the Avengers.
which is I love it. I'm so excited. They just barely announced, like, what is it? They have the trailer for series 5 on the website now.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this. The Avengers, great show. There's no obnoxious 1010 thing that could essentially noise a person to death.
They don't say 10 that much, dude. They honestly don't. Trust me.
Trust me, they do. It drove
Trust
me.
me, they don't. Trust me, they really don't. It's not that overused.
All you need to know if 1010 means affirmative.
10 Space Sergeant.
1010, Tiger. 1010. How long?
12 minutes, Kate. Is everything ready for our guest?
10 Tiger. And Doctor.
I have listened to the entire box set.
Also, the American accent on the Terrahawks isn't that good either. Okay, I want you. Yeah, I'm never gonna re-listen to those first 2 episodes ever again. Well, unless I become a fan, then I will probably re-listen to them. But if on your train ride to your parents' house, if you happen to listen to Terrahawks, every single time that you hear 1010, just realize that whenever I hear it, I'm like mentally screaming in my head. And they do it a lot.
They really don't.
Oh, they do.
They don't. Dude, I listened to the entire box set. You only listened to 2 episodes. Trust me.
Well, maybe they got all their 1010 in the first 2 episodes, and then they just decided, you know what? We've driven one American crazy as it is. We'll just cut this out.
There you go.
Yeah.
You
know what? And if that was their plot, they did it. Congratulations. You drove me nuts. It only took 2 episodes, and I went nuts up with it. Yeah, I was the one that they were plotting after, because here's what they need to do. This is what I would like to do. I actually had this like whole mental picture of this happening in my head. It'd be absolutely hysterical. It'd be scary if you watched it, but it'd be absolutely hysterical. Because like I said, then the American accents just absolutely drive me crazy. And perhaps maybe like the wrongness of the northern one with Lanky from The Last of the Cybermen could have been prevented. I did like the character Lanky. It's really fun. Now, this is what needs to happen. The Big Finish needs to go to Heathrow, rent a windowless van, and drive it to the Forbidden Planet and just park it out there. Then just have a couple people on the inside just standing close to the checkout line. And whenever they hear somebody with an accent that they need, just as they're exiting the store, just open the sliding door to the windowless van, throw the person inside, take him down to the Big Finish studios, and then just say, we'll release you once you've read this script for us. Because then there would be an authentic sounding accent. Of course,
Chase Matheson, I reckon.
exactly. But yeah, she has a potty American accent too, but I know. And then you have stupid people that can't even understand what you're saying, and you enunciate your words properly.
Yeah. It's just like, okay.
Well, that's all for this Devilmonth's, I almost forgot the title of our show, Alhambra Podcast. I am so done. I want summer vacation. Join us next month for the month of June, where I will have either gone crazy after listening to a couple episodes of Terrahawks and finally finished listening to Suburban Hell, which was my homework assignment. And I will have been rejoiced by being able to sit down and watch all 10 episodes consecutively with Game of Thrones. I'm intentionally staying away from Twitter, or at least tweets that Liam does, just so I don't get any Game of Thrones spoilers. So, with that, I am Brett, and you are
Liam.
And please listen and refer a friend. Give us tweet suggestions to help improve the show. Thank you for listening, and we will see you. And please listen with us without watching the classic series Doctor Who and the Warriors from the Deep. Warriors of the Deep. And that will be our next one that we will be reviewing in the month of June. Thank you for listening.
Ciao for now.
Ciao for now. Bye.
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.